Drop it. Drop
Check. Drop.
These nuts.
These nuts. And welcome, all my Star Wars fans and Spoiler Room listeners. It is another episode. And here's a surprise, big surprise. Yes, tonight we are talking about Star Wars The Force Awakens. I've got a room full of Star Wars geeks here with me tonight, and we're going to go right down the line and let you know who's all in the Spoiler Room crew this evening. First off, Mr. Astro Radio Z himself, the one, the only, Derek Carey. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, glad to have you. Seems like we were just talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago that we just had a two-part episode on Astro Radio Z about the entire Star Wars series.
Yes, we did. Make sure you go over to our sibling site, our sister, brother, second cousin site, Astro Radio Z site, to check that out. And right next to Mr. Derek Carey is the Spoiler Room crew regular, Mr. Paul Meredith. Hello, sir. How are you?
Marvelous. Thanks for having me, man.
Glad you could make it tonight. And next to him, it is the one, the only BFD, Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn.
I know this. I love
it. Now you're talking like a Peanuts character, right? Wah, 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 wah. And next to him is the bow tie man himself, the man who has a lightsaber bow tie. It is Paul Salzar. Paul, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Fantastic. Glad you could make it tonight. And, of course, what Spoiler Room would it be talking about Star Wars without Scotty D? Hello, Scotty. Yeah, it sounds about it. Just sounds like when I try to make the Darth Vader voice too. So tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on a respirator right now.
Or the respirator.
The voice or an iron lung.
Iron lung. Yeah. We're gonna call him Mr. Frump tonight. Anyway, Weird Al,
Nice.
And tonight you've been avoiding them all weekend. You've been hopefully to the theater. If not, shame on you. But tonight, right now, this show is called The Spoiler Room, and we are going to spoiler the hell out of Star Wars The Force Awakens, something that has become illegal on the internet, it seems like. So tonight we're going to talk about Luke and Leia's incestuous child, because we found out Leia actually had a child with Luke, and that is Rey. And then Finn actually is the love child between Leia and Lando Calrissian, which is why Han left Leia to begin with. So there's the first spoiler right there. Finn's the love child of Leia and Lando. Han left her because of that, and Luke and Leia got busy and had Rey. There you
Dude,
go.
I especially like the Chewbacca sex scene. I thought that was a very tasteful scene.
That was, yeah, who knew?
You know, there actually is a three-way scene involving Chewbacca in the Star Wars porn parody.
Oh, of course there is, Scott. Of course there is.
And Scotty D, of course, he would know such things. No, folks, we are going to go in depth
Why
in
do I have
this
this
film.
encyclopedic knowledge?
As you can tell, we are excited and jazzed for this because we've waited a long time. And if you want to know how we feel about the prequels, well, that's going to be for another time. Tonight we're just focusing on Star Wars The Force Awakens, a film that, has broken box office smash hits. And, you know, when I sat there and I watched it, I will say when I came out of this film, I felt like it was a natural fit to the Star Wars franchise versus the prequels. Paul, what about you? When you got out and when those credits rolled, did you feel like you actually watched a natural feeling Star Wars film like this fit in the universe versus the prequels, which felt forced?
It really did forced. Yes, I actually did feel that this movie did fit in very well. It actually made me think of the original Star Wars and watching, well, not the original, 4, 5, and 6. I really enjoyed this one quite a bit, and I think, and maybe a lot of my friends have already argued about this with me, is that it was almost too much like the original formula, And I kept arguing with them that that was the point. They were trying not to screw it up like they did with episodes 1 through 3. So I actually did have to, kind of fight that with some of my friends. So
Well,
it was a weird argument.
well, no, you make up a good point. It's the first point I wanted to bring up tonight. Yes, folks, if you haven't read the synopsis, basically we have we have a couple of young folks in here who end up joining up with the Resistance, who go against the First Order, who want to take over the galaxy with their planet-killing machine. And this ragtag group of fighters go against all odds to try to take out this machine and save the universe. There's so much more going on, but yes, at the core, at its base, it is very similar to the first 3 Star Wars films. Kind of touches on plots of each, but for me, that didn't take away from the film for me. What about you, Derek? Did that take away from you at all, the fact that there was that familiarity with this plot?
No, because if you were to look at the series in general, it was a very cyclical. I can't even say that goddamn word. Sorry, I'm probably not supposed to swear on your show. But
No, that's fine. You can swear.
It did seem to recycle itself as it went through the series with varying little elements. I mean, in A New Hope and in Return, you had Death Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, another one, oh, big deal. It didn't bother me much. The main point that I went into it was it going to be fun, and was I not going to hear about Senate meetings and trade disputes? As long as those things weren't going to happen, I was going to have a good time.
And what about you, Glenn? Did that familiarity of that script, did that bother you at all? Because, I mean, Derek's right. It is kind of established in the Star Wars universe. History tends to repeat itself.
It does. I though will say I have reached my Death Star limit. Three is the max, absolute max. But yeah, I mean, I think they had to do something to kind of try and recapture the original a bit, because I think in a way a lot of fans felt they were owed that.
Sure.
But on the other side, I saw a great meme where you have people whining because it's just like the original. Why are they changing things? And then shows a picture of the new Ghostbusters going, why are they changing things? Why are they making it the same? The thing is, people will never be happy. So they want the exact same thing, but they don't want it to be the same. And I understand that that's what they had to do, because they had to distance themselves from trade disputes.
Well, they did have to distance
Volcanoes.
and volcanoes. They did have to distance themselves from the prequels. They had to give the idea that this is a different beast than what you've gotten in the last 15 years. And Cole, what about you with that familiarity of the script, the plot? Did that bother you at all?
I didn't know. I didn't think it was too rehashed. I mean, honestly, the original. Well, by the original, I mean, I guess it's
episode 4. Yeah,
it should be episode 1. But for just when you hear me mention the original, I'm talking about Lucas's original, because I can't really acknowledge the other 3. They're there, but I can't get into them because that's a whole nother podcast. No, the familiarity I thought was just fine. I thought it was done well. If I'd had my druthers, maybe the lead villain wouldn't have looked so much like Vader. They could have not had him be entirely fucking black. Pardon my French. I mean, really? I mean, they could have mixed it up a little bit. That design was a little too on the nose for me. That's a small complaint, though, because the performance under the mask was really good. And Derek and Glenn mentioned it right away, which is that they're doing more with the story. I mean, right off the bat in the opening scrawl, it's a better film. I mean, you don't have the Trade Federation. I don't want the Trade Federation. I knew I was in trouble in episode quote unquote 1 when I saw that. This is exciting stuff. I mean, yeah, it resembles Lucas's original a little bit. Honestly, I like it more. The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were always my strongest links to that series. I didn't see the original in the theater, so I don't have that connection. That was before my time. I saw it later on VHS, and then even later during the re-release. And I gotta tell you, I haven't seen the original cut without the additions in years. But Lucas's original with those the new digital editions and the stupid shootout with Greedo and stepping on Jabba's tail, I think this is way better than that film. Far better. It's nowhere near in the class of Empire or Jedi to me. But I think this is the third best Star Wars film for sure.
And Scotty D, I want to get your thought real quick on that plot, because that seems to be a lot of people's biggest gripe is, it's rehash of the...
It's not. It's not. And I'll tell you what, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm honestly still processing all my feelings about this movie. I know I'm going to have to see it again in the theater, like within the next few days, just to see it, because honestly, okay, is this the most awaited film of all time? No, Phantom Menace was. It really was. Episode 1 was the most awaited film in history. It really was, no matter how it turned out. And we all kind of got burned on that one. This one right away, and right as Cole is so right, because the crawl, as soon as the crawl started up, first of all, I started getting like, oh shit, I started getting really excited. Then the crawl happens, and it starts talking about Luke Skywalker and Leia, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a real Star Wars movie. Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought. The other things didn't feel like real Star Wars movies. This felt like this is a real fucking Star Wars movie. It's really the story. I don't mind the familiarity because there is a certain symmetry to the series. In fact, one of the problems with the prequels is it was too much symmetry. We had two things where, Luke gets his hand cut off and then, cuts off Vader's hand, and Jedi wasn't that wild. And so in the prequels, okay, in every single prequel, someone has to lose a fucking hand. Like, oh, come on. And everybody's related, like, it's not that big of a universe, and so this one wasn't like that so much. There was always a certain amount of symmetry. I don't think that they overdid it. I think that it was like, okay, we have another masked villain. We've had that before. Yeah. Just like the original, there turns out to be a familial bond. There turns out to be all these things, but they did so many, and even the framing story, which of the original was, the droids. On Tatooine, which was a desert planet, and now you have BB-8 on a desert planet, and he's got plans. Yeah, you know what? A lot of it was I didn't feel like it was rehashing. I felt like it was kind of hearkening back to it, and then said, and look at all these other things that we're doing that are new.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting that, now, of course, I have no way of knowing this for sure. This is just a hunch. But I'm expecting that 8 and 9, then along with all all the spin-offs we're going to get, this franchise is going to go on forever. We're going to be dead before it's over, guys. I think that they're going to be focusing more on like all the new things they're going to be doing, but they kind of start out with this framework to say, this really is the Star Wars you love. Mm-hmm. This is the Star Wars that you were looking for. And there's going to be some people who are just going to be bitching and moaning no matter what, just like Glenn says. Some people just can't be fucking happy. And this one, I think that you're going to really get a lot more people that are really for it than against it. And, how do I rank it? I don't see. Here's the important thing is that I don't know if it's possible for me to look at a Star Wars movie and love it as much as that original trilogy. Before all the crap, like Cole said, because the despecialized editions, if you can get them, guys, it's the only way to see them.
Can you? We should talk about that sometime separately, Scott. Because I'd like to hear where I can find them.
I'll hook you up, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck you, Lucas. Fuck you, Disney. I'm hooking a brother up.
We talked about the despecialized version last night a bit on how that is a really good version to watch.
But yeah, I don't think it's possible for me to love a series as much as that, because that was my childhood. I grew up with it, and it's such an important part of my generation. I'm an old fart now, but you know what? There's another generation out there right now, and now they get to grow up with this, and they get to see this. My niece and my nephew. Oh yeah, he loves Star Wars, but he watched the Clone Wars cartoon, and so he's all talking about fucking Anakin. I'm hoping he's gonna watch this and say, "Fuck Anakin," and I just totally turned this into an NC-17 podcast. By the way,
yes, you did.
With all my language, so you can bleep me if you want to. But but yeah, I think that this is really what we were looking for, and I think that kind of uniformity and symmetry is important. Actually,
yeah.
Yeah, it is, and you're right. It is for a new generation. I tell you, I made the sappy post, but it was a true fact that everybody was the same age the night I went to see it. I was the same age as my teenage boys, sitting on the edge of their seats watching this film, and watching teenagers, because teenagers are cynical, watching them get into this film, their mouths dropping at certain points in this film, watching them scooch in their seats forward and leaning forward and watching and just entranced in it. So much, in fact, that even my little chuckles didn't bother my honorable son number one, which usually do during a movie. If I laugh, he looks at me like, "Dad, shh." And after the first half hour to the film, he didn't even do that because he was so into the film. And that's the way I was too, and I think it's because of the way J.J. Abrams handles these characters. Now, the one that I want to start off with right away before we get to the really new characters is, the one main character. In my review, and I brought it up last night, I did my review after my first viewing of the film. And I said that the villains got shortchanged. They got the Marvel Universe treatment. And then after I saw it the second time, I realized, okay, Kylo Ren, no, they did actually explore more with him. I just missed it the first time because I was trying to take in so much. But the rest of the villains do get a bit shortchanged on this, like Captain Phasm and the First Order, especially Paul. What'd you think of the handling of the villains in this, outside of Kylo Ren? Say, the Captain Phasm, who we got our own character poster, and the big Nazi-like, Imperial-like First Order.
Again, if you go back to the trying to be parallel, it was very much that same feel. The characters in the fourth episode weren't that brought out. I mean, you got Tarkin, you had Lord Vader, and those are the only two characters that I thought were memorable in that episode. And in this movie, you got Kylo Ren, and you had the Supreme Leader. And those two characters were all that I really needed. So I didn't really care that the villains got the Marvel treatment, because they did such a great job with the characters that I thought they wanted us to follow. So.
And Glenn, with you, we touched on it last night, but with the villains, Kylo Ren, like I said, after the second viewing, I'll agree with you guys. He does get more beef, but the First Order and that are just kind of like, yeah, they're there. Or did you feel like we got enough of them that we needed?
I think they served their purpose. I mean, we didn't need a lot of depth on them, I don't think.
Because one of the things I've seen online especially is, and it shows you the modern viewing audience, and yes, I'm getting on a get off my lawn moment, just deal. Modern viewing audience, there's like 3 different posts of 25 questions we still have about the series, and 18 questions that need to be answered. And like I read through it, and like 5 of them, I'm like, they answered that. Like one of them was, what happened to Finn and why was he part of the First Order? And I'm like,
he actually he flat out says it to somebody in a whole backstory thing.
I was like sitting there going, did you pay attention? Did you pay attention at all to the dialogue? Or there was another one is, why couldn't he kill? I'm like, No, he could kill. He chose not to because he made a choice.
Yeah.
That's all you need. He made a choice. Okay, and so a lot of people are talking about the First Order and well, what's the story with them and that, and for me, I guess I was hoping for a little bit more, but with this film packed with so many new and old characters, I guess.
How much background did we get on the Empire in the first movie?
Yeah, it's true.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It only really expanded with the other Glenn's right. I mean, it only expanded with the other movies, and we barely know who this. Oh God, is his name Smog? No, let's say Andy Serkis's. Okay, Andy Serkis's character there. So I mean, I'm sure we're gonna find out more about it.
Sure.
I'm hoping anyway.
Well, I guess with me, what if they hadn't brought out? I guess for me, their motivation of wiping out the Senate. When they mentioned that, and Derek, you could hit me over the head, but they mentioned that they want to take out the Senate and be the ruling class of the galaxy. I think if it was just them terrorizing or showing that they're a power in the galaxy and not making it specifically, we're going to wipe out the Senate, I would have probably had a better thing. But by them making it a little more political, I guess that instantly triggered me wanting to know a little more about it, of why they're trying to take out the entire set. I mean, am I off on this at all? I probably am, but I guess with that First Order, their motivation seemed a little bit thin.
I had no problems with the First Order whatsoever because they served the same purpose that the Galactic Empire served in the original trilogy. And if you remember in A New Hope, there was that sequence where they're all standing around the board table, essentially, quote unquote, and they're talking about the Galactic Senate at that point as well. Yeah. And you don't know necessarily the motivations of the Galactic Empire other than being this kind of fascist organization that's just overseeing everything and oppressing everyone. And honestly, that's all the First Order were to me. So I didn't need super. I think now we've become so critical based on the prequels of having things over-explained to us that we tend to now dive in a little too much in half. When we really didn't need that in the original trilogy. All you knew was the Empire was bad and people didn't like them.
Sure.
The First Order is bad and people don't like them. Motivation enough for me, and I thought they served their purpose.
You make a valid point. I'm not sure why that sat with me like it did. I don't know. Maybe I was just curious to more, because I found that fascinating.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, Mark. It's always good to be curious. But as we've discussed before, is that when you do start to delve into the minutia of these different organizations and their motivations and learning more about them, is that exciting? Does that help propel the plot at all?
Right.
No. That is stuff that I think you delve into in books and you delve into in periphery, extended kind of pieces of work that are based on this one thing. And where the difference between this movie and let's pick on someone. Let's pick on the Phantom Menace. And the difference between these two movies is that the Phantom Menace was more focused on a world-building thing, where they were more focused on the periphery things that populated this world and not the central conceit, where this film was more concerned about its central plot than it was everything that populated it.
That's an excellent point there. And
that is a really good point.
I like that quite a bit, actually.
Because that's honestly, I got to tell you, it is like one of the only things that I really like on this first viewing, because when you see it, you're just still on like a Star Wars high, and you're still trying to process everything.
Yeah.
Trust me, it was actually a few months before I could really come to terms with how much of a piece of shit Phantom Menace was. It really was. It was like, when I had to like actually sit down there and like list everything wrong with the movie. I'm like, oh, it really sucked, didn't it?
Dude, it was so bad. I can remember what I was spacing out about when I was watching it in the theater. Literally,
Sure.
I can remember what my mind wandered to.
It took me a while for me because I was just so high on seeing Star Wars. But in this one, the one thing where I did note right there, I'm like, well, like for instance, when they start bringing out like, and we have this super-powered weapon and we're about to kill the Republic, I'm like, wait, what the? What? That just came out of nowhere. What the hell? I wanted to know. I mean, people talk about the villains being shortchanged. I don't think the villains got shortchanged. I think the Republic got shortchanged because I was, I wanted to know more about that. But Derek makes an excellent point, and I'm going to have to keep that in mind when I see it a second time. I'm not saying when I do that I'll say, you know what, I totally 100% agree. But it's a good point he makes because I was looking at that and I thought, okay, I honestly, there was part of me that was wondering if even the film would seem to have moved quicker, because it kind of did seem a bit like they threw a lot in, and it kind of felt. It felt like a 3-hour movie to me instead of 2 hours and 15. I honestly thought, like, actually more stuff here to let us know like who these people are and why we should care about them might have actually made the thing move a little quicker. I'm not sure if that's going to be the point when I see it again, or if Derek is correct in saying that this is all like kind of like periphery stuff like that. I mean, would it be a case of like how Peter Jackson threw in every frickin' footnote into the Lord of the Rings?
We won't talk about those movies.
We really shouldn't.
Anyone's listening and wants to make a comment, hop on Twitter and send it to @SpoilerRoom PDCS. That's Spoiler Room Podcast. It's PDCS. Just put that @SpoilerRoom PDCS in your comment, and I've got that monitoring up there. We're trying something a little new here. So, but sitting here now with the characters, okay, so you make the very valid point, and now that you mention it, Derek, yeah, we don't really leave Rey's side for most of the film. It's either Finn or Rey we really follow. We follow the characters more so than cut to Senate scene. Whenever we cut to something, you make a valid point, is that whenever you cut to another fresh scene, it's on a character. It's not on a setting, basically. We're following them. So, yeah, that is pointy. They kept the central plot more localized versus giving the scope. They're like giving you glimpses of the galaxy, but like, no, we're keeping it right here to this story. Now
but
we've got
that was the main point of the first 3 movies.
Right.
The hero's journey.
Right.
And that's why they had to stick with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's so many comparisons to A New Hope. Is that the reason why I've always I know other people were saying that it wasn't necessarily their favorite of it was always the film that to me resonated the most because it felt like a very intimate film, like it was one person's journey from point A to the end, for the hero's journey essentially, and they did the same thing here, and that's why it feels so familiar, and that's why there's so many comparisons to it, because they took this grand idea that you had the New Hope, and then they expanded it with the next 2 movies, and then they really expanded it and went off the rails with those prequels, and now they reined it in and brought it back to its roots, to a hero's journey again.
Sure.
With this film.
Yeah, and that's why I think it felt naturally. That's why I said it felt like a natural Star Wars sequel, because it felt like the others. He captured that feeling. Now we do, as we mentioned the villains. Let's dive into some of these characters, namely the guy they featured in the trailers, Mr. Kylo Ren, who, yes, this is the spoiler room. I'm putting it out there right now, folks. Kylo Ren, Han Solo Leia's kid who turned evil. Glenn, how did you feel about the Kylo Ren character?
I liked the Kylo Ren character. And I was going to comment on something I think Cole said it before about him looking too much like Vader. I think that was the point.
No,
Because
absolutely. I didn't mean that as a criticism. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I meant it more as like, if I had directed the thing, I might have altered it a tad. I mean, yeah, that was the point. But I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean,
Well,
I don't know. That was such a. It's a bad complaint. I was just looking for something to bitch about. I'm sorry, Glenn.
All right. The other thing I like about him is that he's a very believable bad guy because he's not just simply evil through and through. And I mean, yeah, you get the whole Vader redemption thing at the end of Jedi, but I mean, up until that point, there's not, in those movies, you don't see any real conflict in him. But with Curly McHair here, Kylo, you actually, you see that there's conflict in him, and except he's not, really conflicted with trying to be good. He's conflicted because he wants to be bad, but the good part of him is holding him back. And you really see that when he, takes off his mask.
sure.
And you actually see the person underneath.
Mhm.
And I think that really makes him a better villain, I think, in some ways than what you see in a lot of films, because he is a person. He's not just that mask and that voice. There's a person underneath there.
It surprised me they had him remove the mask, which was good because I didn't quite care for the voice thing they did with the mask. Kylo Ren, Paul, though, you feel he kind of had those layers, and is it odd to see someone who actually wants to be bad and fighting to be good?
No, actually, when I went into this movie, I was really hoping for Luke Skywalker to be Kylo.
I think a lot of people were. That was a lot of big fan theories for a
Yeah,
while.
and I was really hoping they would do that because that would do the parallel of the whole fall and then redemption type of thing.
Sure.
And then as soon as the crawl went up and they explained that he was missing, I was like, oh man, they're not going to go with that storyline. And then as I was watching the film and then found out, oh, this is Leia and Han's son, and he fell to the dark side, and that really brought me back, and I was like, yes, this is the second best story that I could hope for, and they did it. And because of that, and the fact that they gave him so many great character type moments, he didn't. Even up to the point where he actually commits the act that you're like, oh my God, and
You could say it's a spoiler room. He kills his dad. There you go.
It's
Put it
really
out there.
tough. I'm still trying to process that moment.
I know.
It's a great moment, and that was great because they couldn't do that with Luke, or they could have, but it wouldn't have been as good. Maybe if he would have killed off Leia, as Luke, that would have been as impactful. But to have him kill his father like that, it was hugely intensely emotional for me, and I loved it. I loved it, like every bit of it. And this story has a lot to do with families, family relationships, and how you fall into the family structure. And it just it put that punctuation mark, the exclamation mark right in the story, and that's what I really loved about it.
Oh yeah, family is the main theme. I mean, you got two orphans in here in the form of Rey and Finn, who were orphaned for different reasons. You've got Kylo Ren, who wants to follow in Grandpa's footsteps, which you wouldn't think anyone would say. Cole, would you say that Kylo Ren is the Anakin Skywalker we wish he was in the prequels?
I hadn't thought of that. That's a really awesome observation. I would definitely agree. I would say he's even better than that for me. It really worked for me. That whole character I thought was great. The way it was delivered, the way he acted it. What's the actor's name? Adam Driver? Is that right? I'm going note free tonight. I love the movie so much. I'm going note free. But he was really the way he spoke, the way he carried himself. Thank God they had him take his mask off. I mean, really, if he had spent the whole film in that mask, it wouldn't have worked for me at all. Everything Paul said was right on. I'm trying to think of some things I really agreed with, and Glenn as well hit some good points. And I wanted to add, it's also interesting because really, when you think about it, who would want Han Solo as a father? I mean, I'm serious. My father, I just spent all weekend with him. He's listening right now, probably. I love him. But he was Han Solo. He was a rock and roller. He used to open for big bands like Steppenwolf and shit, literally. And he was gone a lot when I was a youngster. And he's like my best friend now. But you go through that phase. If your dad is a cool guy, it might not always resonate. On the level you're looking for when you go through all that angst, and sometimes it really does turn to hate. And I thought they did all that well. Now I have no idea what was going through Abrams' head, and all the writers' heads when they conceived it. I might be looking too deep into it, but that's what you look for when you go to a movie, and especially a big sci-fi movie like this. Like, for something to really have that sort of subtext and a character that you know and love, like Han Solo. And, he has that line where when he's trying to break into, I forget the character's name right now, the lead actress, but he's trying to break into her mind. He says, I can tell you think Han Solo is the father you'd always had. I can tell you he would have let you down.
Yeah.
You really get really clear, well-delivered, well-acted, well-written, well-conceived glimpses of this guy's hatred. I mean, it's well done. I loved it.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it was the second viewing for it that I got the Kylo Ren. I focused more on his character because there was so much for me to take in, and I was jazzing so much from it because it was, as I'm watching the film, it's one of those going, damn, this is really good. Holy crap, this is really good. And I was like, oh wait, what I just missed? So we do have Han Solo in here. This is pretty much.
I just want to quickly just say the Kylo Ren character was so great because it gave you that flip side of the original. I mean, it was a total mirror image of the original Path to Redemption, and they didn't pussyfoot around by saying this guy is totally evil at the beginning. No, they actually started out by showing him conflicted, which was a real big surprise, and it made this arc so much more Shakespearean when that big shocking moment comes that I actually loved that character. It's one of my favorite characters in the whole movie, though I gotta tell you that it's hard to compete with those heroes. So.
Well, the heroes are so larger-than-life characters, but I think, Derek, your feelings. I know you liked the Kylo Ren character. Did you like kind of the tantrums he had in that? They seem more believable than, and I think it's Adam Driver's performance than, say, Anakin's in the prequels.
I think they finally captured the true nature of the dark side in the Sith, is that it's based on passion. It's based on feeling yourself and your feelings and not being in control of those and allowing those to guide you and make your decisions for you and getting your strength based on the intensity of your passion. And he embodied that. He went from wild highs where he would react to things and totally trash an entire room with his lightsaber to very quiet, intimate moments with people that he deeply felt those things, even though he had ulterior motives. So I think for the first time you finally get a Sith, or you finally get a bad guy that's well-rounded. Honestly, I think, say what you will, Darth Vader is the most iconic villain in film history. There's no doubt about it. Kylo Ren may be the most well-rounded bad guy in this series.
He gave us the best insight of what it might actually be like to be a Sith student.
Absolutely.
We heard about it a lot, but we didn't really get that in the prequels because, one, the performance, and two, Lucas's directing. Let's just not mince any words there. Pure and simple, it just didn't quite feel that genuine. Here, Adam Driver just put his all into this Kylo Ren character, and you do feel that conflict. You see that training that we actually see being done outside of just convincing him that his loved one's going to die. No, we actually see that Snoke, the Supreme Leader Snoke, play with him and go, you know what? Don't think about that, dude. Just go do this.
Hey, Mark, like, can we call Snook Snooky for the rest of the episode?
Great. Supreme Leader Snooky. So, good old Kylo Ren had an ultimate moment, which like I mentioned last night, I was evil because second showing I didn't watch the moment when Han Solo gets skewered. I watched the audience and watched them all drop their mouths and start bursting into tears, and I chuckled to myself wholeheartedly because that's what I had done the previous night. So I'm like, ha ha, you got it now. But I know I'm cruel like that, but the one lady next to me, lady next to me after that happened, she didn't stop crying 5 minutes after it happened. So I mean, she was still going. But Han Solo, how did you feel? He complained about, we've heard stories about how in Jedi he felt like too much like the comic relief. And I think in here they gave a good balance to him, but you did kind of feel like that moment was coming. It was kind of telegraphed the way once his character shows up. Wouldn't you say, Glenn, that you kind of saw it coming?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It did not surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
It still affected me, but it didn't surprise me. I saw it coming quite a ways away.
And did you think Han Solo maybe had a little bit too comedic moments, or did it feel like old curmudgeon Han Solo? Well, not curmudgeon, but just old Han Solo.
I think somewhere in between.
Uh-huh.
I think he's obviously older, but I mean, I'm getting older, and I am a little more curmudgeon, but I'm still a bit of a smartass.
Sure.
And that's what it is. I mean, he's still a smartass. He's just older, so he's a little more tired.
And Scotty D, what about you? Did you feel like they handled Han Solo's character well in this?
I thought they handled him really well. Now, at first, of course, I was disappointed, and it kind of brings me back to something that Paul was saying earlier, that when he wanted Kylo Ren to be Luke Skywalker, and he turned out he didn't. Well, I guess this, and he said that, well, the second best story they went with, and that's good. And I kind of was feeling a little bit like that when Han Solo appeared, because I'm like, oh wait, him and Leia aren't still together? Aw. I mean, I was really upset. I mean, like, that's like a 32-year love story that you just flushed down the toilet. And so I was a little like, but and this is, it's one of the rules I try to instill on myself, and it is the hardest rule to abide by, which is I try to judge a movie on what it is and what it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a judgment of anything. It's just a really hard rule to go by because you have these preconceived notions about it. And so it took me a little while, but given his personality, like, yeah, you know what? He is still Han Solo. He's just 32 years older, and guess what? Yes, as Glenn says, you're gonna be curmudgeonly. I didn't have a problem with how Harrison Ford aged in Crystal Skull, a film that I seem to like better than basically the rest of the entire world. I didn't mind that, and I certainly didn't mind it here. Now, we've seen characters get made older, and they completely change. I don't know if you guys remember the TV series Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It was a good show. But that was basically the prequels before the prequels, guys. If you remember, one of the most misguided things they did, though, is that they would open each episode with an old Indiana Jones who had this patch over his eye, and he'd tell and he'd find like some rambunctious kids running around, and then he'd tell them a story like some really annoying old guy, and you really didn't want to see that. It's like, oh, that's not Indiana Jones. Oh my God. No, it's totally Indiana Jones, but you're gonna be crankier because guess what? I'm freaking crankier. I've lived, and life's hard. If life doesn't weather, it's always like you're always gonna gain a little bit of an extra cantankerous edge as you go on. The trick is just not to totally give in to it, and I don't think he did. I think that there was still a lot of that old swagger there.
Mm-hmm.
But with a little bit of cantankerous thing. And I think you saw some wonderful things, like in the scenes when he did reunite with Leia. Oh, man, those scenes just almost made me break up.
I got misty-eyed when she hugged him.
Oh, I totally did. Oh,
like,
I was like, oh, my God, this is
like,
wrong.
they're together. Oh, my God.
I knew it was going to end that way. Like you said, it was totally telegraphed and stuff like that. He's like, you need to help me. I'm like, oh, shit, this is not going to end well because this is only episode 7.
She drops the line that I can't reach him, and yes, you can. You're his dad. You're not Luke. And I'm like, ah, shit, that's it.
He's done because he's got 2 more episodes to go, right? You got to find out, is he going to get better or is he going to get worse? And also there's the idea that, it was a kind of a more practical thing that of the cast members, let's face it, Harrison Ford kind of looks the oldest.
Yeah, he does.
Don't think I'm thinking that anything bad's going to happen to him in the next, 5 or 6 years, however long it takes to finish this first trilogy out. I don't think that, and God forbid if it did. But
he had a little trouble in some of those running scenes. We'll admit.
He already got horribly injured on this.
Yeah,
set,
I know, right?
You get but yeah, they're gonna have to have his arc wrap up pretty quickly, and I'm like. I didn't feel like it was a cheat. I didn't feel like it was just an emotional blackmail for the audience. I felt like it was really well done. I thought we really saw a good epilogue to this character.
Yeah, I did too, and I felt they handled him well, even with the little more comedic moment with the monsters on the freighter. Derek, how did you feel kind of how that whole thing played out? I mean, I like the idea of the Falcon being stolen from one person to the next, but how did you think that played out, or how did that sit with you, that whole thing with the tentacle monsters and stuff?
It was pre-functory.
Yeah.
It was just a scene that, how do we get these characters off of this freighter and into the Millennium Falcon and out the door? It was more than likely my least favorite scene in the entire film, just because, there was no real tension in it. It didn't feel like there was any consequence because it was early in the movie and you knew none of these characters were going to die in this scene. So honestly, all it was just there to get them off of that freighter and into the Millennium Falcon. So honestly, it was quick and it was done. It was done quickly. So so be it. I just ignored it because the tentacle monsters looked awful.
They did. That was my one. I didn't have much problem with the scene. I had problems with the way the monsters looked. It just looked like a whirl of CG, and I'm like, oh, come on, show some more imagination than that.
I want to talk a little bit more about the characters, but then we'll get into the kind of the production value of the film. But with the Falcon, who is an iconic character, Paul, how did you like how they handled the Falcon, especially the reveal of the Falcon, the junk?
It was humorous. It was like, they refer to it and they don't actually show you it. They show another ship. They're going for the other ship. It blows up the other ship, and then they're like, okay, let's go to the junk ship.
Yeah, and it's the Falcon.
And it's the Falcon, and it's just like, wow. But it was fitting that it kind of is a reflection of Han Solo, in that it got old as well, and and I love the fact that they replaced the little scanning dish on there, because it just harkens back to the Return of the Jedi. How
the dish got knocked off. Yeah,
dish got knocked off, and it was like those little details were great, and what was really neat though was the fact that as the characters were going in there, you was like, wow, this looks familiar. It didn't look at all like they redid any of it. It was just like, yeah, this is This is the Millennium Falcon, just a little older.
They didn't pull an Enterprise D or E. It is the Falcon. It's just a little more dirty and a little more dinged up.
Yeah,
And we got to see more angles from it too,
which is great.
which was great. And I think that was a great way to get you comfortable with the characters. The new characters. What do you think, Glenn? Because you've got these new characters, Ray and Finn, and you kind of want the audience to warm up to them, and you have so far, but they're still fresh. But then you put them in probably one of the most, if not the most iconic ship you could, and they show that they can actually operate it. Do you think that helped get the audience to warm up to these characters a bit?
Wait, they were on the Enterprise?
No, the Falcon.
And now his loyalties are known.
Fly her apart, Glenn.
I mean, the Falcon is there because it's a tool to introduce Solo.
Mhm.
It's fan service.
Sure.
That's why it's there. It's there because we fucking saw the picture of it in the teasers. You better show us the goddamn Millennium Falcon. And I think it's also there to just give some more examples of the skills that
Ray
has.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's and this is something that people have been complaining about is her character calling her a Mary Sue because she's just too good at stuff because she can just fix the Millennium Falcon. But that's all she's done for the last how many years is salvage spaceships. She probably knows them pretty well. And you get to see some of that where she gets to fix stuff. And I think it also shows some of her... it's been shown throughout all the Star Wars movies that those who are force sensitive just have a kind of natural affinity to being pilots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was also part to show that she has that natural affinity. She's never flown a spaceship before. She's flown her little speeder thing, but she's never flown a spaceship. But somehow she takes to it quite easily, and I think that's just, again, showing the fact that she is force sensitive.
Right. Well, extremely force sensitive, and even they lean a little bit to Finn on that. And I think a lot of people miss that dialogue in there where they both meet up after they escape with a phenomenal scene with the Falcon being chased by a couple TIE fighters, where they both meet each other to go, "Did you see what I just did? I can't believe I did that."
So good.
They both did that, and so I think it shows surprise even in their characters that they were able to do what they were able to do. And I don't think it's a Mary Sue at all. You're absolutely right. I mean, we've established this thing over 6 films by now of how powerful the Force is, and those who are in tune to it, especially the Skywalker line of people, are really in tune to it, and they have extra, talent that other people, just natural talent that other people don't. And I can't understand that complaint either. I don't think it's really warranted at all, of her picking up things too quickly. Did that bug you at all, Cole, that she picked things up too quickly?
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all, man. I loved her character, everything about her character. I had 0 complaints with her and her interactions. With the actor who also did awesome playing opposite her. What's the gentleman's name?
John Boyega.
Oh, man. So good.
Mm-hmm.
Their interactions are so good. Very crisp and comedic and fresh and just perfect for a Star Wars movie.
Well,
I mean, god damn. Somebody knew what they were doing here. Really.
Well, and they felt young, so they weren't exactly, making mature choices either. Would you say, Derek? I mean, they did feel like they weren't above their age, did they, at all in this film?
No, I don't think so, because I think there was a few interactions where they kind of devolved into little kids,
Mm-hmm.
and they were showing that they weren't in total grasp of the situation, and to me it was refreshing. It was nice to see people that weren't just walking around and we're gonna keep picking on them damn prequels. Weren't walking around with sticks in their bums. I'm trying to be nice on your podcast.
Oh,
here.
you don't have to. Scott already ruined that.
I screwed him good.
But you're not being told how amazing these people are. These are just people. They don't know they have powers. They don't know that they're anything beyond what they are.
Mhm.
And it's refreshing to see that now. John Boyega's character Finn, he was trained from a baby to be a killing machine. So he obviously does have some skills ahead of him. And what's her name? Daisy Ridley. Her character, she's obviously this scavenger. So she's a survivor. So they obviously do inherently have some hard-ass skills. But at the same time, they're just people.
Mhm.
They're not Jedis. At least we don't know that until later. So yeah, no, I thought they were great.
Yeah, I loved what they did with the Rey character because it seemed even refreshing, didn't it, Paul, for a female character within Star Wars? I mean, Leia was strong until she wasn't, but here, I mean, her character stayed consistent throughout. I think as a strong character, I never felt once where she fell back into maybe that trope of other female Star Wars characters that even Padme was kind of because she wanted the man type of deal. How'd you feel about how Rey was handled versus, say, other female characters in Star Wars?
I think she got stronger actually because in the beginning we're kind of introduced to her as, oh, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. But then as she starts going on the hero's journey, she starts to like push Finn into becoming a better person as well. So everyone around her is affected by this aura of her destiny, kind of, and it was really nice at the very end to have her kind of deliver the lightsaber. And it was kind of like an epic moment. It was like, wow, this is a really neat thing of her character, kind of like the reverse torch passing,
Yeah. Well, it's and the look on Luke's face for the 30 seconds we get to see him, though,
Yeah.
he kind of is surprised and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna make me do this, aren't you?" You had to find me. Now I'm gonna have to train you. Look at this crap. He's like, can't I hide at all? But I loved what they did with Finn, and even now the whole lightsaber thing. You bring up a great point, Paul, because apparently the original one of the original openings was a severed, not a severed hand. I'm being too morbid, but a lightsaber hurling through space and ended up landing on the planet.
And I'm trying to find it.
And then it was found by someone, and then they were supposed to do like a montage scene where it was passed on to someone else until Maz got it.
Oh, I don't like that.
And they kind of did that, but for me, I kind of liked the mystery of the fact of his lightsaber is just sitting in this creaky old chest in this temple in the middle of pretty much nowhere.
I don't like that other ending. First of all, how the hell's the thing flying through space? It's space.
Yeah, I know.
And second of all, it's too complicated, and it brings it's. We don't really need to know that the lightsaber has been passed down to person to person to person. We just need to know that the right person is there to accept the responsibility of it at the right time. And that's the whole point,
Well, Scott, it also plays into the whole mystical theme that was in the original trilogy, in that things are destined. Things don't exactly just happen.
Right. Well, but what a better way to say it? An even better way to say it than have it passed down is to do it just like they did it very well. I might add that you were destined to be here at this moment and everything. And even though she refuses it, it comes back to her. Yep. But how does it come back to her? Does someone hand it to her? No. You know what? She reaches out her hand and boom, takes it. I loved this character so much. I thought like what they did with this character was so great. I don't think she's a Mary Sue at all because why? Look at her at the beginning, like you said. I mean, when she's scavenging and accepting like food rations, she doesn't even haggle.
No.
She doesn't do anything, and she just accepts things as they are. And why does she do that? Fear.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the worst enemy of a budding Jedi of all.
Sure.
And it's all about overcoming that, And
Mhm.
I loved what they did with it. Daisy Ridley, first of all, I was not familiar with her work before this movie.
Me neither, man.
And man, she just blew the doors off this thing, and I just thought she did such a great job.
For a character and the way they wrote her to put a newer actress to where she's the central point in the film. She's carrying this story and most of the film, in all honesty. Yeah, I thought she did fantastic in it. And her whole figuring things out of how they use the Force things. Derek, they kind of explain that without words, don't they? How she kind of tunes in real quick going, oh, Kylo's doing that to me. Can I do that to him? Oh, yeah, I can. I mean, how did you think her figuring out her Force powers? Do you like how they handled that as well, or did she pick up on those too quickly?
I mean, again, I guess I'm just going to go to the fact that at this point we've seen 6 films.
Sure.
We've watched entire cartoon series. We've played video games. We've played board games. We've read books. We've done all this shit. Do we really need explanation as to how people figure out the Force?
Mm-hmm.
No. So it didn't bother me. It didn't bother. We know how the Force works.
You just
Why
reminded
do
me
we
of
need
that
to
line.
go through it again?
You just reminded me of that hilarious line, though, about the one person who doesn't know is Finn, the John Boyega character. He says, "We'll figure it out. We'll use the Force." That's not how the Force works. I love that.
Yeah, even Han Solo's like, dude, that's not how the Force works.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to, having to explain away everything. It's literally, we know how this world works. We know that she has these powers. Let's just fast forward and get to the business. Let's stop, as Scott so eloquently said, let's stop pussyfooting around and let's just get down to the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is, I mean, it's the Force, and no one, as much as the prequels are bad, no one's sitting there going, well, how can a 10-year-old build droids and fly in a space battle? Force, motherfucker. That's it. It's just
That's just how it goes.
It's the Star Wars equivalent of the Lord works in mysterious ways. In other words, don't ask stupid questions.
And she pulls on her emotions, and we get that final conflict with Kylo Ren, which a lot of people, again, the internet loves to bitch, where people are like, oh, well, how did Finn know how to handle a lightsaber? I'm like, he was taught hand-to-hand combat. Lightsaber. You don't need to be a Jedi to wield a lightsaber.
It's a sword.
It's a freaking sword.
You just need to be. You need to be a Jedi in order to handle it really well. Just like a samurai knows how to handle his blade very well, but anybody can pick the freaking blade up and skewer somebody with it. That doesn't take much.
Well, and they even show it. If you notice that battle at the end, the way Finn battles with the lightsaber versus Rey, Finn fights like he's got some training. Rey is fighting with more emotions to where she's trying to go for that kill shot every single time. You watch her, and she's constantly trying to stab at him, until the end there when she tunes into the Force, which, again, people complained, and I'm like, that's the Force. She was told, hey, just listen to, the Force, and she types in, and she just beats the shit out of Kylo then.
Are people really complaining about all? Because I'll be honest with you, it's been extremely hard. I have avoided all spoilers. I've even only seen the teaser and the first trailer. I haven't watched anything else, and I had to avoid everything else before seeing this movie.
I was looking for it for our show because I wanted to see just how much, and I had heard, and there are things. These are common. These are common complaints.
God, go outside, people.
I I gotta agree with all you guys. I gotta
People
totally
seem
agree.
to forget. It's like these people didn't watch the actual movie. Well, how could she just stand up to Kylo when he's in train? It's like, motherfucker got shot in the chest with a blaster.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the ride. We're taking you through space, you ungrateful bastards.
It's such a better world now if you ignore everyone.
Yeah.
Just go
It
and
really
enjoy
is.
films.
Except the show.
Yeah, go, if you want to sit and listen to people go on about it and dissect them, good for you. But to be honest, I
Yeah.
think there's too. Oh, this is so hypocritical, but there's just too much noise now, and there's too many people that feel that their bullshit opinion is worth anything. Just go and enjoy things. I have completely ignored all of the internet noise
Sure.
about this film because honestly, people just want to bitch and do not
Yeah,
enjoy anything because if they bitch, people will listen to them.
People I haven't heard from in months are telling me I'm wrong about Star Wars. Like, well, fuck, man. I'm serious.
Hey, Cole.
No, you know?
Cole, you're the big fan, like myself, of another film that featured a strong female character throughout. Are we having the similar people feeling uncomfortable about this situation of a strong female character throughout? I mean, I want to see Rey and Furiosa team up, and hell yeah, go bring me
No,
that movie.
you're absolutely right in drawing that comparison. And you know, it is I don't want to turn this into a big feminist thing. Anybody who's seen Little Red Riding Hood, probably 3 or 4 people here know, you know, I have pretty strong opinions. So you put a strong woman in a movie, you got me. And this wasn't just like a hook. This was well executed. Again, I was with this character way more than I was with Mark Hamill in episode 1 or 4 or whatever
Right,
the hell.
4, yeah.
Just call it Star Wars, because
Star
But
Wars.
I will tell you, you know,
Exactly.
obviously by Empire they'd won me over because, you know, Irvin Kershner is a genius and they were dealing with characters and, you know,
Sure.
I love Luke as the series goes on, but I'm just this movie is so much like A New Hope that I can't help but compare him, and everything clicks better for me here. The death of Hans is much more eloquent to me, to my taste palette, than the death of Obi-Wan. It's better shot. You get far more resonance. Granted, as Derek has stated, you know, we have all these years of fandom, so that attributes to it. But I'm not the hardcore fan, or at least I wasn't. I am now. I am definitely converted, especially since, Jesus Christ, I love Looper. That director is doing the next movie.
Yeah.
Hook
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the guy
Bring
who did
it
Looper
on.
is doing the next one, so I'm looking forward to that. Plus, he and J.J. Abrams got together when they were making this one and collaborated and talked about the direction of the film. So I'm really looking forward to 8, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
Awesome.
You know, we talk about Rey being a strong character. I liked what they did with Finn. I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do with his character, but I really liked the Finn character as well, and it makes me want to see more of him. Paul, do you want to see more of the Finn character? Because, well, first, John Boyega, I mean, rocks. But
Yes.
how'd you feel about Finn's character?
I loved the fact that he started out potentially could have been bad, but he makes a choice. He makes a choice early on. You see him make that choice. You see how conflicted he gets, and then you see him that decision kind of sets his destiny in motion. And there's that moment too where he's like, "I'm gonna run." And to me, that's like, no hero does that. And it was great to see a hero do that. And mind you, heroes have to be heroes, so of course the story is going to draw them back in. But it was neat that this guy was trying to run away. And I loved that about his character. And I love the fact that he wasn't my typical expectation of a hero. And that's why I would love to see him again. I want to see his character grow. I think he had a much better relationship with Rey than the Anakin and Amidala type relationship.
Right.
So I really hope that they develop that in the next few movies.
Yeah, you felt like they were kind of touching to that, but I like the fact too if they just keep them as close friends too. I like that idea as well if it doesn't go past that. And but the Finn character, a lot of people are speculating he might be force sensitive as well. Glenn, what do you think? You think Finn might be at least sensitive to the force?
Oh, he absolutely is.
Mhm.
I mean that's why Kylo Ren stops after the battle when he looks over at him.
Sure.
I think that's part of what helps him break his conditioning. I mean, yes, he has the whole moral dilemma of wiping out a whole village, but I think part of this because that awakened the Force in him.
Right.
It's just he's not as he does not come from the same lineage that Rey does, so it's not as natural to him.
But he is sensitive. Yeah, and that's the impression.
He absolutely is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the impression I got with his character as well. And I really enjoyed the scenes with him and the other character that the new character that we brought in. That I liked what they did with him, who actually I read was supposed to die earlier in the movie, but they figured out how to work him in. Was Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac Scott.
I'm very glad he didn't die.
Yeah.
I was so happy to see him again. I'm like, oh, good. That would have been such a lame thing to kill him like that. It's a good character, and it was such a good. I mean, just the way they teamed up right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Just the way they teamed up at the beginning with in that when they steal the TIE fighter was fantastic. I mean, the John Boyega character Finn is just a fantastic. I mean, well, the Poe character gives him his name Finn because all he had is a number. And
an important number.
Yeah, John.
Yes.
FN.
2187.
Yes.
Okay.
Cell number that Leia was in.
Yep.
Get the fuck out!
Yes, it's the
I thought
same.
you were going to tell me it was 1138. Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me it was 1138. I thought it was another
that's the same cell number that Leia was in.
I didn't know that. Get out. That's cool. But anyway, yeah, I mean the whole character. That's really cool. I'm going to look for more Easter eggs.
It's still not as amazing as Order 69, but I don't think we can get into that yet here.
It's nothing as the Order 69. But I mean, like I loved the Poe character. Loved John Boyega. I thought John Boyega just nailed it. That opening scene with John Boyega too. I'm gonna go down Poe. I'm sorry in just a second, but I mean, I just want to say that opening scene with the Finn character, before you even see his face, was so really startling. I was not expecting that. You're seeing the typical them blowing away. All of a sudden, you see the blood smeared on the stormtrooper helmet. You see this person like a stormtrooper. You never see a stormtrooper get disoriented in the heat of battle and just look around and he's having an existential crisis in the middle of this special effects battlefield. That was really amazing, and I loved how they teamed up. They seemed to be kindred spirits, and they're cheering. They're going woo, and honestly, when they were cheering and going woo, honestly, in my head, my little heart was going woo with them because it was so exciting. And it did remind me of this. I want to just really quickly go back to this before we move on because I didn't get to say it before. I stayed was going to be this thing. Okay, I'm going to be staying reverentially silent during this movie. Right, just to bring it all in here and everything like that. I'm not going to chatter or do anything like that. I'll laugh at it if the joke's funny. But when they did pan over to the Millennium Falcon in that scene, and they said that ship, and they go over to the place, they show it. I just went, oh my god! I'm 40, man.
No, this is no shit. Just a quick side note. We saw it twice at the 7 o'clock show Thursday and the 5 o'clock show Friday, something like that. And both times there was mad cheering during the opening scrawl and standing ovation for the credits. And
Sure.
I've never seen that. I'm not saying the movie is necessarily that good, but I'm just saying it's a unique to me, especially in this small town. I mean, Christ, it's wild.
But I mean, I liked how Finn and Poe interacted when they first. That felt natural with the way that the film had gone at that point, and it was a fun Star Wars moment. That was something that was an event that felt kind of more Star Wars-ish than say out of other the way that played out, where it was heavy yet it was also a little bit joyous as well with Foe and Poe. And I really liked the Poe character because Derek, we've got a pilot who they say is the best pilot in the galaxy, and we actually get to see him be the best pilot in the Resistance. What'd you think of Poe?
Did he have to be so goddamn happy all the time? Jesus Christ. The guy was smiling constant. No, he was great. He was a fun character. I liked it. It was good to see characters that you kind of rooted for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep doing this because the movies suck. None of the prequels had any characters that you latched onto.
No.
Yeah.
It was nice to see characters again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get, even your minor characters you get. I mean, for me, yeah, and that's what I think attests to the screenplay and the story that they wrote is the characters, is because every character that we got into that actually had the speaking part, and was on screen for more than a few seconds, I wanted to know more about because they were so interesting to me. Like the Maz character, which I still find it kind of interesting of a choice to take a very tall, a slender actress and put her in a motion capture where she's a really short, elderly character. And I understand that Star Wars in that, but I thought she did a great job. But, I wanted to know a lot more about Maz. She was, just for the few minutes she was out there.
Oh, that will be books.
I'm sure there's books and expansion and Wikipedias and all that, but I like the Maz character and that whole setup as well. Glenn, what'd you think of the Maz character and where she, her establishment, if you will? Did that feel like it fit all in with the Star Wars universe?
I think it fit. I didn't like her look.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that's a different thing. No, I think she fit fine. I like the fact that it makes sense that the Resistance has allies that aren't actually she's not actually like in the Resistance. She's a friend of the Resistance, and that makes sense that you have people who aren't they're not everyone in the Resistance is hanging out at their little base waiting to be blown up by the Star Killer. And I think she fits very well in with the mythos as well. And I think there's obviously more to her story as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's how old? I mean,
yeah,
is that Yoda's sister, younger sister, maybe?
She's 1,000 some years old. Yeah, I just liked her character though, and where she came in and how they handled her. I don't think they needed to make her motion capture. Though I think they could have left her, Lupita. I think they could have left her as Lupita. They didn't necessarily need to make her an alien. I don't think, or they could have done a practical effect more on her than that. But
they need to have, and you notice this also, and I had no problem with this honestly because I think sometimes, and again, to go back to Derek was saying, we saw too much of it in the prequels. Mm-hmm. You saw almost too much alien, too much things. But the Star Wars things have always had some aliens.
Right.
And stuff ever since the beginning. The prequels had too much of it. This one had almost none.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to have her, you had to have her in there just to, kind of, it added them like, okay, good, yeah, we are going to see it. And we even got a little bit of a cantina thing going on there.
Yeah, we did get a cantina thing in there.
And,
which...
so but it was like a nice thing to see where, so you got that in there. And I think it was important to have that alien character that was not just a background character.
Yeah, but I guess the problem I have with it is the problem that I also had with our Supreme Leader Snook, who you can explain away as being a shitty projector in this big, huge room, so he looks a little more animated. but they used J.J. Abrams was big, and this is where I want to go to next. J.J. Abrams was big on using practical effects and mixing it in with the CGI, kind of like what they did with a Fury Road in a lot of ways. Where you have as much practical stuff as you can put in there, and then you work the CG. And in here, the only thing is when you go all CG, it all blends together because it's all CG. Here, when you've got a lot of great practical effects and prosthetic makeup and on the characters, I mean, no one recognized Simon Pegg as the junkyard guy who's handing out the rations.
Is that who he was? Okay.
That's who he was. He's got a prosthetic mask on. Okay, and you get all these great prosthetic effects and everything, and then you insert a CGI character. They stand out a lot more. Derek, I know you had kind of a problem with Maz and a couple of the CGI characters because they stood out, I think. Was it because the practical effects were so good?
I think it's just because the CGI was so shitty. I think, when you had all these amazing sequences of CGI, like let's just take, for example, that unbelievable barrel chase with the Millennium Falcon.
Oh yeah.
The ruins and through all that shit, just phenomenal CGI. And then you have that Baz character that looks like E.T. looks better than that thing. It was horrible looking, so I just thought it was really misguided. If they were, I think, if they were going to go all the way, they should have went all the way, or just not had to have such weird characters. Like, simplify it more, because that CGI looked awful. Just looked awful.
Yeah, I think so too. What about you, Scott? Would you feel that the CGI, when they did the CGI characters, did that stand out a little bit more and not look quite as crisp as like everything else in the film?
I didn't have a problem with it before. I might have a problem when I watch it again now. But no, I'm going to be looking for stuff like that. The CGI, I can see, the Maz character did kind of look like Woody Allen's character from Ants. I can still get that a bit, but the only CGI I remember noting that I had a problem with was the raptors or whatever they called those monsters that got loose on the Millennium Falcon. Just because I thought I don't like to, when I see CGI, I don't like to see like a big like swirly thing. I mean, I had the same problem in the movie Mama. I thought the ghostly Mama character was too much of like a big swirly vapor thing, and I felt like it was just like a big mismatch of tails and tentacles, and that was the only part that I really had a problem with the CG. I will say that Derek is dead on with one thing, and that is that the characters definitely, the CGI characters definitely did not look as good as the incredible space battle scenes.
Yeah.
Those really did take the cake. I don't know if they had like a different department working on them or what, but yeah, I will say that.
I may be wrong on it, but Paul, you might know as well. They did use more spaceship models in those though too, didn't they? In some of those battle scenes, I mean, they looked like they had more weight than being completely CGI.
I don't know actually. So.
I think they did do a mixture, but I don't. But you know what? And this is a good testament, I guess. I couldn't tell you which one is which.
You couldn't tell. I mean, that's where I was like too. And Derek's absolutely right. That battle with the Millennium Falcon. Oh my Lord! I was totally geeking out over that whole. I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, this is so friggin' awesome.
If I could give maybe a speculation as to why it stands out so much more, and I think maybe this is just let me just wax a little bit on kind of like demystifying special effects work a little bit, seeing how I kind of have a little bit of experience doing it. The reason why the planes and the spaceships and like the backdrops and stuff like that, they don't stand out so much because when you're looking at a creature, you focus on eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You generally, when you look at somebody and you're talking, you're interacting with someone, you're looking at eyes. And CG still is not getting eyes right. Mm-hmm. So it immediately, like as soon as you see that the eyes, they pull you out And then you start looking at the surrounding elements, and it pulls you out even more, where you see these amazing, crisp spaceships flying with all these particle effects and the speed, and it's just constantly moving all over the place. You can't do that with CGI characters and focus on them as well, because it takes an immense amount of time to try and get a character that you sit and focus on eyes. It takes so much time to make something like that.
Sure.
That it's easy for us to like say, okay, yeah, this stuff looks all cool. Oh man, this Jar Jar Binks looks like a pile of fucking donkey balls. It's the basic fact that when we sit and have to pay attention to something that talks, we focus on eyes, and CGI eyes still suck.
Yeah. And I will say, yeah, that's what catches me is you stare at the eyes. And for me, I think they, like I said, the Maz character, I keep coming back to it because that one really stood out because she gets more, the most screen time, and she actually, drives some of the plot point. I almost wish they would have just had Lupita in some prosthetics of some kind, if you want to do her as an alien, rather than what they did. And I think the performances change. I mean, Cole, wouldn't you say, though, I think the performances were so much better in this one because they're actually in real-life locations versus a green screen stage. Would you think that might have helped of why the performances in general of almost everybody seemed good, except like when they're with Maz, it seemed a little bit off because she was totally CGI.
I want to tell anybody out there who's listening, pay attention to what Derek just said because it's very true. In fact, I just went through this. You do a decapitation scene, you do it with a model head that has the eyes closed or a model head that has the eyes open. Think of your favorite decapitation scene. Is that decapitated head, does it have its eyes open or closed? It's everything. The eyes are everything. He's absolutely right. And if there are any filmmakers out there listening to this, pay attention to what he just said, because that is so true. It's why Space Invaders is not a timeless classic. I'm convinced of it, because that movie is good. As far as the character we're talking about, I am not the Star Wars buffoon you guys are. She is the Yoda-like character.
Yeah, she was the lady with the goggles.
Yeah, absolutely. Did I just say Star Wars buffoon? That's
Yes,
Yes, you did.
I did not mean to say that.
It's okay.
Wow.
We'll virtually beat you later.
No. That is literally just a lack of the holiday.
Okay.
I am so sorry about that.
No, we're just
Star Wars
joking.
buff.
Search
No,
your
I thought
feelings. You know it to be true. No, sorry.
No. Your slip up. I am so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm working holiday hours at a grocery store, so
Oh,
I'm
God bless you, man.
But with her character, would you say the performances maybe were a little less with her because she was? I mean, her performance was great. I loved her voice and everything.
Yeah,
but...
no, I didn't have any problems with it, man. You're right that in the recesses of my brain as I was watching it, yeah, Mark, honestly, I was thinking, fuck, this should be practical. Fuck you. And the person in me that's sitting there watching it with my girlfriend who's bawling and her young son who, is way more into it than anything we've ever watched.
Sure.
I mean, you could take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and even Mad Max for him and burn it. I mean, he, compared to this movie, holy crap. I mean, that sort of stuff just kind of dissipated. The movie was that good. Even the tentacle things that everybody seems to hate. I see echoes of that in A New Hope with the thing in the, whatever it was, trash bin that they'd crashed in.
There is that.
Kind of this sightless entity.
Yeah,
I
let's
had
stop
no problems
motion.
with any of that. I thought the effects were perfect. I just want to speak very quickly about the environments, though, because I do feel like that's maybe what takes this back a notch, is the set pieces, and I know we're running out of time, so I'll be quick.
No, it's
but
okay.
the lightsaber battle specifically for me, oh man, really? I just really wonder if they paid attention to why Empire and Return are really the ones that stand out amongst a lot of fans, not everybody, but certainly, a lot of people would say they're the technically better films. And I think it's because the action sequences, and Cameron does this too, but George Lucas and his crew, specifically in the day, had very specific environments and very specific atmosphere in which for the characters to interact, so the action would play into the environments and both would reverb off of each other, to put it simply, so the action was the characters. So there was no separation. So you weren't looking for a flaw in the effect. You were just amazed that R2 shot this lightsaber out and Luke did this double flip over this gargantuan sand dune monster, and Return of the Jedi, holy shit. People were on their feet. There was no separation, And I think that's where this new film loses it a bit, is because the environments don't play into the emotions as much. And I don't think it's because of the CGI. I think they were trying. There's a scene in here where she says, "I've never seen so much green in the world." And Han Solo gives her this look as if he feels her. Like a lot of the green is gone. What have we done with the green? And that's followed almost immediately by her standing over a huge body of water. Has she ever seen a body of water like that before? She's literally banging the last drops out of her water bottle in the first scene. They're trying to take you into the environments, but I think what they're missing is the way the characters interact within the environments. I mean, really, what did the snow do in that last scene? In the light scene?
I don't know. I think I have to disagree with you a little bit on that, Cole, that they interact a lot better in their environments. I guess my point was versus, say, the prequels where it was completely a CGI environment.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree completely with that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think they interacted fine. I mean, I kind of liked the lightsaber battle and the fact that they were actually cutting into trees and shit. And, and she's getting cornered and she's running up on rocks and such. The fact that it was snow, it's just the fact that that's where they were. They were high up in the mountains. But, that last lightsaber battle, I kind of like the fact they're chopping into trees and crap. I'm like,
well, Mark, let's bring it back to its roots. It's samurai. Back to the old samurai films.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're fighting in the bamboo.
Yes.
Shoots, right? Is that what you refer to, where they're like cutting bamboo and stuff?
Cutting bamboo, or if we wanted to get even more exploitation, Lady Snowblood in the snow.
Also, there's I'm not going to screw myself by mixing up which Kurosawa film it is, but there's a Kurosawa film with a very big samurai duel in the snow.
Yes.
So
yeah.
And of course we've known that ever since the beginning, that he took a lot of influence from, say, Hidden Fortress. I don't know if it was in Hidden Fortress.
Yeah, I don't think it was in Hidden Fortress.
I don't think it was in Hidden Fortress. But, I mean, we all know that the original model for the story was basically Hidden Fortress. So, if I could ask a really quick question for people, because I think that, Derek, for instance, mentioned he had a problem with the tentacle things, and, some people mentioned some misgivings. I think all of us really enjoyed this movie a lot.
Oh yeah,
I was grinning in ear to ear. I know that.
Yes.
But what if you could pick one thing that you didn't care for in the film? What was it? I'll just tell you right now. For me, it was when they actually shot out the weapon and destroyed the Republic planet thing. Because I didn't get the emotional pull of, ooh, it's like the Alderaan thing again. I got, this is like that bullshit Abrams pulled with Vulcan in the first Star Trek. that was my, real quick, that was my personal thing. Anybody?
That's a good question. Paul, what about you? One thing that out of everything, I mean, we've been a little nitpicky. Yeah, we all loved the film, but when my friends and I sit down with the original trilogy, we get nitpicky sometimes, but we joke and laugh about it. But so with The Force Awakens, if there was one thing out of anything that stood out most that you wish they could change, what would it be?
believe it or not, it was John Williams' score.
Thank you. Thank you. It felt like he just cashed
Called
it
it
in.
in.
Yeah,
Yes,
he just called it
exactly.
in.
Because I mean, like that's the one thing I really liked about Phantom Menace was that his Duel of Fates song is unbelievable. You instantly are drawn into it. And this one, yes, they had the musical cues of the original trilogy, so you got that excitement. But there was nothing new. None of his new material really excited me. So that was my biggest disappointment.
Okay. And Glenn, what about you?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, there's things that I have issues with, but part of me thinks that if I changed it, would I really change it for the better, or would I change it for the worse?
Oh, good,
Well, not necessarily saying like it's something that you think you could have personally done better, but like one thing
Well,
that
I
maybe
know I
would have
could do
stuck
better.
out.
I'm from the DFE.
I mean, like, because I mean, let's face it, like, it's not like I can get behind a camera and say like, all right, let's just fix that scene.
I think maybe if I were to change something, I'd have something other than another Death Star.
Yeah.
I would have some other thing that they could be using. I mean, I don't know, even if you just change it to like a super fucking spaceship, where it's just not a Death Star, it's a spaceship, or something that's not the same thing again. I mean, we talked about how obviously they went for the sameness for a reason, but you can still have the same feel without it being a Death Star.
Sure.
But that's really what it is. It's a Death Star, and
Yeah.
Funny thing is that a friend of mine made a Facebook post, and he was joking. It was just before the movie opened. He said, "Just as long as there's not a third Death Star, right?" And when I was watching this today, I'm like, "Oh."
And Cole, what about you? One thing out of anything, if they came up to you and said you can change one thing in this film, what would that be?
Well, I really think that it's the lightsaber battle specifically,
Sure.
but the lightsaber battle doesn't work because you just saw Han Solo die. If you think about the real emotional pulls of both the original Star Wars and Empire, the big revelations happen in the lightsaber battle, right? So you get, and even kind of in Return of the Jedi to an extent. With this, you just killed Han Solo.
Yeah.
And then I've got some murky, dark, snowy lightsaber battle in the middle of the woods. It did not work for me. And even in Derek inspired me to go back in 3D, because we saw it in standard and it was amazing. I mean, it looked amazing. And then Derek's like, man, 3D. So we went back the next day, like left work early and went back and saw it. And man, it was great. But even that lights, there's something about it. I don't think it's well staged.
Just didn't sit well with you, huh?
No, I don't think it's well staged or well filmed. I don't think the pacing of the ending of the film is done. I don't think the scenes are necessarily. I think all that could have been tightened up. I'm not saying shorter, but man, if you're gonna kill Han Solo, you got to have some more beef. And I know that's what Mark Hamill was there for, even though his name is first on the poster.
Yeah.
I mean, like, wow. I'm not going to hold that against the movie because I'm so stoked for the next one. But, yeah, I mean, Han Solo's death is great. I mean, it's powerful, emotional, and surprisingly multi-layered stuff for a film of this sort. And to follow it up with that lightsaber battle, and then even some of the scenes, the brief little scenes that followed that, including R2's resurrection, which is very abrupt, and doesn't have the power it maybe could have. But again, I'm talking, I don't do half stars. I do, a rating of 5 stars with no halves. I would give this a solid 4, maybe 5, once I watch it when I'm older,
And Derek, what about you? One thing you'd like to change if you could with the film? I mean, we loved it, but what would you like to change if you could?
And this is totally on me, and I really don't have anything for the film itself because I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. It would be the marketing of this film that had me the entire runtime anxious to see Luke Skywalker, and then have him in 2 shots of the entire fucking film. That drove me nuts. The entire movie. Because all I did, every scene, okay, here's where Luke's going to come in, right? No, here's where Luke's going to come in. He's definitely going to come in now. Nope. This is it. I'm like, that was me the entire movie, waiting, because I knew he was in this movie, and then he's in two fucking shots. They should have never, ever, and I know it's impossible nowadays to keep this stuff a secret. It's impossible. They list it on IMDb. The moment it's there, it's out. The cat is out of the bag. But that would be the one thing that I would want changed, would have a non-disclosure agreement, to have not put his credit up on IMDb, to not do the Entertainment Weekly spread, to not do any of that shit, because it had me waiting the entire movie for Luke Skywalker to show up, and he never did.
Yeah, keep it a mystery. Keep it if he's actually going to show up or not. Keep people wondering, how are they going to do a Star Wars movie without Luke? You know, and keep people hungry. And yeah, then at least if you don't credit him, if you don't lead on at all that he's into it, I totally see your point, Derek, and I have to agree that if you don't know that at all, then suddenly that reveal at the end when he shows up and he turns around, you're like, holy shit, you know, that's Luke, you know.
Yeah.
He was showing, they were making such a thing about him, like, I was thinking, I'll bet you he's not going to show up until the very, very end. And then when you see him kind of like with his back turned, and I said, I was just thinking to myself, if he turns around and it's Ewan McGregor, I'm going to laugh my ass off.
No, instead he turns around with this little tiny robot hand, and they just kind of stand there.
Well, I was kind of expecting they were going to do something like that, because there's just so much else in the movie at that point.
Right.
I'm like, okay, yeah, they're going to save it. But I mean, I was just thinking, man, if he turns out it's not even him, I'm going to just die laughing.
Where I sat there with it is I realized they had to do it because they killed Han. If they killed Han and hadn't shown Luke at all,
people would have been burning theaters down.
There would have been riots on the doorsteps of Disney. People would be setting things on fire and flipping cars over. So they had to show him, but I agree with Derek. Don't let on that he's in it. Keep people hungry so you do get the reveal. Boom, there's the credits, and then you're like, holy shit, I can't wait till episode 8. Even outside of that, though, holy shit, I can't wait till episode 8, and I think we're all in that same boat. This one, at least, it felt natural, and I think we all agree that it did make you want to see more of these characters, which is something that none of the prequels did. It makes you want to see more of the films again, and we're going to get one every year till the end of time. We're told this.
That was a surprise, because I mean, like I said, I've been keeping myself sheltered from it, and man, it's not easy with the internet these days.
And the next one next year is going to be Rogue Squadron, or Rogue One, it's called.
I thought it was going to be like 2018 until we got episode 8, and now I'm finding out, it's summer of 2017? Holy cow! Because I thought they were going to do every 3 years like they were doing, and they're not. There's like, no, Disney's all in on this.
No, especially after the money it made. No, it'll be this. It'll be an episode, then it'll be a spin-off, then it'll be episode, spin-off, episode. I mean, at least for the next 6 years, we're going to have at least a Star Wars movie every year, if not more in the foreseeable future. But for me, this one, it fits in there again with the magic of Star Wars. And I think from tonight, everybody, we're going to wrap it up here because it's getting pretty late. I think everybody picked up that, even with us being nitpicky, even us with mentioning some of the things we had questions on, overall, I felt like a kid again. What about you, Derek, when you watched it? Did you feel that magic again?
It's hard for me to go back there nowadays. I think I've just that thrill. There's very little that gets me that excited. Did I enjoy it an immense amount?
Mhm.
I don't think I got all teary-eyed and as nostalgia as the rest of you gents, because while I've been a huge Star Wars fan the majority of my life, I would never say that I would ever wait in line to go see one. I would never dress up to go see one. I would never probably ever tell somebody I ever read a book that had Star Wars on it.
Sure.
Was it a fun movie? Yes.
Mhm.
So I'm just glad we're back to having fun movies in
Yes.
the series.
Well said. Well said. Did it make you want to see 8? Are you curious of what they do with 8?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker's at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Cole, what about you? Outside of the lightsaber battle that you disliked, in general, did this film kind of take you back and give you that tinge of nostalgia and make you want to see 8?
It really did. It really did, man. And that's surprising because, I mean, not only did the prequels let me down, but I'm not a great, I'm not a big Abrams follower. I don't watch TV, and I've never seen Lost. I'm strictly a movie a buff. I'm strictly a movie buffoon. No, I really, his takes on Star Trek weren't for me. There are many things I want to see as a Star Trek fan. One of them is not Spock doing a John McClane leap from car to car on a terrestrial highway. I mean, that's just me. I didn't think those worked. To go into this and have it, really reconnect me to my youth in a huge way, to remind me of what Empire in Return did to me. I saw those both very closely back to back in the theater, and the original cuts, as a kid, it just really. I can't be sure how much they inspired me to be a filmmaker, but I can say this: I went twice with my girlfriend and her amazing son, and I may never have children because I make movies, and that's the choice I make. I make movies, but I actually got to sit there and see, watch Star Wars with a kid who he liked Mad Max, he likes Fire and Rescue 2, he likes all that stuff. He likes everything that you could take a kid to that would be somewhat awesome. You want to be the hip parent. But you could take your kid to Star Wars, and just have it blow his mind.
Right.
And just sit there and be like, but I loved it that much too. That's the thing, is I don't have that nostalgia. I think the original Star Wars came out before I was born.
Right.
So it was Empire for me, and at the time, nobody told you as a kid, hey, there's no ending. You're going to be stuck with this nightmare for a year and a half. I mean, really, it was traumatizing,
Oh, it was.
And Empire is a hardcore film right from the get-go. You're dealing with characters who are living and dying by each other. It's just, I'm going to see you in hell. Just a totally different film. This film took me back to that place. These people were going to live and die for each other.
Yeah.
And would kill each other, my God. Yeah, I love the film. I'm so sorry, I'm rambling.
No, it's okay.
Not at all. You're not.
Yeah. And Glenn, how about you, sir? Did it take you back and make you want to see 8?
I want to see 8. This didn't really take me back. Nothing can take me back to that. As much as I can say something made me feel like a kid again, nothing can recapture 7-year-old me, 6.5-year-old me seeing Star Wars for the first time. It's absolutely impossible. Short of me actually riding in a working Millennium Falcon.
Sure.
It can't compare. I mean, I'm 44 years old. I'm a grumpy son of a bitch. And as much as I enjoy things, I don't have the same innocence I did back then.
Right.
And not only do I not have the same innocence, film doesn't have, as far as that type of movie goes, doesn't have that innocence anymore. Star Wars broke ground back then, and they can't break that ground again. It's
Right.
done. The vault
Mhm.
opened. It's Ewoks have been let out of the box. You can't put them back in as much as you want to try. You can't.
Right. And Paul, what about you, sir? Make you want to see 8, and did you feel the magic again?
I felt the magic. I do want to see number 8. It wasn't the same type of magic, though. It's a different type of magic. It's kind of, it's the type of magic that an adult has when they want to become a kid again.
Mhm.
That's the type of magic I had. I didn't have the magic that I had when I was a kid, watching it, thinking that I was the adult character in the film.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was completely opposite, and I loved that bit of it. And a lot of it, though, is how movies are made nowadays. It's like I'm so used to the Disney way of just cranking out movies. I know if I wait like a year, it's going to be out, the next one. I don't have to. It's not that exciting as much as it was when I was a kid. It was like, oh, it's going to be 3 years before I get the next film, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. 3 years until we find out what the hell happened to Han.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Does he actually die?
Scotty, how about you, sir?
Well, like I said before, it's not. Do I want to see the next one? Of course I do. But like I can't. Nothing's gonna replace that original trilogy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, the first one came out when I was 2. I actually couldn't see it in the theater. I couldn't see any of them until the re-release. So I was like about 5 or 6 when I started really seeing Star Wars. But it changed everything for me, and I was a child. So does this make you feel like I'm a child again? No, nothing's gonna do that, guys. I'm sorry. But I'll tell you what it did do. It put a huge smile on my face. It made me really excited. I got excited for a movie like I've only gotten maybe once or twice a year in the times since. Like I said, this is not the most awaited film of all time. Episode 1 was. No matter how it turned out, the hype surrounding that, because we had no idea that they were going to turn out that way.
Oh,
we
dear
were just
God.
so excited and everything and like that. And, this is a different ball of wax. It is an Abrams film. You can see it. I was watching Star Trek Into Darkness earlier tonight.
I'm sorry.
I actually enjoy that movie. I actually enjoy that movie quite a bit, actually, believe it or not. And just like that movie, because I wanted to compare the styles, and yeah, just as like I thought, the camera in Force Awakens does a quick whip before it settles down on some people come charging down a hallway, and in Enter Darkness, camera does a quick whip before settling on people charging down a hallway. It's its style. It's a different style. I like that it's new people's style. I like that it's new things. Is this going to make me a kid again? No, because I was, 6 and 10 and all these other these childhood ages when the original Star Wars came out. But you know what? There are 6 and 10-year-olds out there right now. There are people, and even in this age of very, very jaded people, and we've talked about some of the people who just complain about everything, but you know what? Who's probably not complaining a lot? The kids who are seeing this. The kids who, like Mark, you took your kids to see this movie. Cole, you were talking about taking your girlfriend's kid to see this movie. I've seen pictures of people bringing their children, and this is so great because it's like a full circle thing about the people who were children when they saw it. Now they're bringing their kids. I mean, that's so fantastic. And the grins on these kids' faces, for them, even growing up in the internet age, even with all the magic, for them it is magic. And that's the magic part of this movie. And that's why, yes, I can't wait for Part 8.
And as I mentioned in the beginning, I did take my kids, and I think part of the extra enjoyment for me was watching them have a reaction that I have, in all honesty, I have not seen them have this type of reaction to a new release film since I started taking them to the theater to actually watch a movie. The reaction and seeing them so into it, and I was into it. I mean, it's a shared experience, but I was getting something a little different than them. But in the end, it was like, yeah, I was smiling, and I'm just like, man, I remember that moment of seeing, Empire in the theater and being them and seeing them do the exact same experience and things I did when I saw Empire. You know, that was just as magical to me because I was like, okay, Abrams, you've hit it. Because they didn't even have that reaction to the prequels, which they've watched, but we watched them at home. But in a theater with all these people, and I've mentioned it before, it's a franchise, one of the few big, huge, epic pop culture franchises that spans generations. This is one of the only movies you'll see, the big movies like this, where you won't see just teeny boppers. You won't just see this specific demographic. You look at that audience of the sold-out crowd, you've got every age represented in in the Force Awakens audience. And that, to me, is what makes this movie stand out for me, and that's why I enjoy it. And I hope you've enjoyed this very long conversation and in-depth discussion about The Force Awakens. We'll wrap things up here really quick, where everybody gets to pimp some of their stuff. I hope you got some knowledge out of this and had some fun. And Derek, why don't you go ahead? Where can people find you and your epic podcast of Star Wars?
You can find my show at astroradioz.com. It's called Astro Radio Z, as we discussed earlier. It's on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's on Spreaker. Anywhere where you can find podcasts, you can find Astro Radio Z. Unlike Mark's podcast, my podcast mostly centers on cult, horror, and exploitation cinema. We decided to diverge a little bit and talk about Star Wars this last week. So it's not always like that, folks. So you'll go in and we talk about a lot of sleazy movies. So if you're not into that kind of thing, pass it on by. But otherwise, I also kind of make films here and there. So if you want to see our new movie, Hole in the Wall, which is a Wisconsin horror film collective anthology, you can go to rabidchildfilms.storeenvy.com. You can buy a DVD there, or we're on Amazon Prime. Or not actually Prime, we're on Amazon On Demand. You can rent it there, and also on Vimeo. Otherwise, there's other films that I've been a part of, Swamphead, Screaming in High Heels. Check them out, Google. And thanks. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
You bet. Glad you could make it, Derek. Cole, go ahead, sir. Pimp your stuff.
I am filmmaker, new movie coming out, The Last Great Horror Movie. Look for it this spring. You can find me on Facebook at Shadows and Lovers Productions, or on Horror Roar if you want to check out some bizarre fan art I do when I can't edit anymore and I'm driving myself insane. Or, as always, if you're not a complete psychopath, and if you are, I'll sniff you out right away, just friend me on Facebook, because all I do is talk about movies. It's my life.
Awesome. And Paul, go ahead.
You can find me on WordPress, Twitter, and Facebook at Forsaken Film Reviews.
Awesome. And Scotty D, go.
You can catch me at movieocrity.com. Updates are forthcoming, I promise. But if you don't see new material, catch up on the old stuff. Why not? Also, you can see my web series Movieocrity, which is about getting over the sameness of a lot of Hollywood and celebrating exploitation films. That web series, the best place to check all the episodes out is at vimeo.com/channels/movieocrity, MOVIOCRITY. I just published a brand new episode for the Christmas holiday on the 1989 straight-to-video film Elves. So, I mean, there's new stuff coming out. Yeah, there's new stuff coming out there. So check those out.
Fantastic. And you can find out links to all these people as well as my stuff on specialmarkproductions.com, where you can find all the latest spoiler room, all of the episodes there, either the audio version or the Google Hangout versions. You can find my Final Cut reviews there, as well as some other things that I do. Also, now with my Final Cut, I've partnered with a website called nerdslant.com. It's a brand new site that's just up and coming, and they're allowing me to post some stuff there, so you can find stuff there, including new episodes of my Star Wars themed vlog, Lonely Trooper. It's a series that I've fired back up again, cranked out a couple more episodes the last 2 weeks. You can find them there on NerdSlant or on my channel, specialmarkproductions.com or on the YouTubes at Special Mark Productions. Find us on Twitter at Spoiler Room PDCS. That's Spoiler Room Podcast. It's PDCS. You can Twitter us there or Twitter me at Movie Maniac 3D. The Spoiler Room thanks you for listening to this podcast from a galaxy far, far away. And as always in the Spoiler Room, the conversation is fresh, though we definitely spoil the films.